completely different emotions for the San Antonio Spurs. Game 3, they went into Madison Square Garden, silenced the crowd, and reminded everyone this series was not over. Game 4, they built a 27-point halftime lead at MSG and somehow lost by 1. OG Anunoby tips in a Brunson miss with 1.2 seconds left. The largest comeback in NBA Finals. History made in the process. Now, the Knicks are up 3-1.
Welcome to the bonus on SportsTalk Media. I'm Nate with Glow. This is episode 2. We are covering games 3 and 4 because together they tell one of the most dramatic 2-game swings in finals history. Let's get into it.
Let's have a quick recap of both games. In Game 3, Spurs win 115 to 111, 115 to 111 at MSG. Wemby, he had 32 points on 11 of 18 shooting, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks. Stephen Castle, 23 points. They became the first pair of teammates aged 22 or under to score 20 in a finals game. The Spurs ended the Knicks' 13-game winning streak. That was like the second longest in postseason history. The series at that time was 2-1. Life in San Antonio Spurs yet.
Absolutely. After they won game 3, I was like 2-1. Now we have a series. And then game 4, the Spurs came they came out flying. They were up 76-49 at halftime. 27 points. To be honest, at that point, I was like, it was going to be a blowout. So, in my opinion, I thought the game was over. And then the Spurs scored just 30 second half points. They didn't go on runs after run. Like the next make a run, maybe Spurs kind of score a few points, but then the run kept coming. Brunson takes the lead with a floater in traffic with 1:22 seconds left. Then with 1.2 seconds on the clock, Anunoby tips in that Brunson miss, which I think you touched on that earlier in your opening. Next win, 107-106. Largest comeback in NBA Finals history. As the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. Knicks are now up 3-1. One win from their first title since 1973. First title. That's a long time for a franchise to wait for a title. But we'll see what happens.
That's so funny. The disparity in those two games. You had the highest of the highs in Game 3 and the lowest low in Game 4. Both in the same building, back to back. Let's figure out what that means.
Absolutely. So let's, as we normally do, we kind of talk about, pick a few angles, some takes, and then we talk about overreaction or early reality. Let's kind of talk about Wemby's game mistakes first. Well, they were up, I think it was 104, 103, and then he was at the free throw line. Make those 2 free throws, you're out by 3 points. And then push come to shove, the tie with the 3.
You mean two free throws?
I mean 2 free throws, yeah. If you make those 2 free throws, you're out by 3 points. Either they tie with a 3 or they score a 2 and you're out by 1. So that late game mistake, in my opinion, is costing the Spurs this series. In my opinion, look at game 1. Some of his height is 7'4". He should probably be at the post and score at the post. His late game mistakes are costing the Spurs this series, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go early reality. Game 4, the Spurs had a 27-point halftime lead. Wemby shot 2 of 8 from 3 as the lead disappeared. He was just jacking up threes. He finished 9 of 25 from the field, 36%. On the final possession, the Spurs chose not to guard the inbounder. So they want to inbound. You got that person. I don't know what. Well, that's a coaching thing. Maybe that's something we can debate later. Anunoby threw to Brunson. Both Fox and Wemby chased him. Anunoby was left completely alone on the glass. Uncontested tipping. Of course, the guys that were there, they tried, but I thought he had control of that tipping. She's on the line. And this is the first time. Game 2 ended with Wemby fouling Brunson late. Of course, he had a turnover that was costly. He had to foul Brunson, which we understand. If he didn't cause that turnover, they win game 2 easily. So I thought they've lost a few games for mistakes. This is a pattern of late game decision making that I feel is costing San Antonio.
I think, in my opinion, that's an overreaction.
Okay?
And I'll be fair to you, though. The mistakes were real. But here's a full picture. Across 4 finals games, Wemby is averaging over 27 points. Game 1, he had 26. Game 2, 29. Game 3, 32. And even in game, and you know, like a 35-5 performance that puts him alongside only Magic Johnson as the second youngest player to do that in a finals. Game 4, he still had 24 and 13. He has improved every game, since the finals started. And I'll say this is about the final possession, in my opinion. You mentioned Fox chased Brunson just as well as Wemby did. That's a team breakdown, not just a Wemby breakdown, in my opinion here.
So when you lose a game by 1 point or 2 points, when you had a lead, I don't think it comes out to the final position for the most part. But I don't disagree on your point on that final position. Fox is equally responsible there. He was responsible. Because who do we keep talking about after game 2 and game 4? Where's Wemby? Because he's the leader of that team. He's their franchise. He has to be better in moments that decide games. Not the moments that pad a box score, in my opinion. Because you're talking about some of the stats he had, but look at his penalty shooting. Because sometimes we look at all these stats, 35-5, all these things, you're like, but how efficient were they when they scored this point? So to me, that also matters.
Well, we all seem to forget that Wemby is still a young player. This is actually his very first NBA finals. And this is really his very first playoff run, So for him to get to this point, he's tried. You have to look at, the more experienced players. Like Fox, this is not his first rodeo. So putting all the blame on Wemby, in my opinion, I don't think, is fair. I understand he's the franchise. I understand he's the face. But the thing is, if the Spurs win Game 5 on Saturday, we come back here and talk about how he responded to adversity for the 3rd time in this series. Because that is who he also is. He responds.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to respond to the point you made earlier about Fox. To be fair, I was telling someone something. Like I told someone something about the game. I said, well, number 1, Fox is a vet in regular games, regular season vet, because he's been in the NBA for quite a few years, of course. In the playoffs, maybe the playoffs is probably, I think this is second playoff. So in the playoff, I call him a sophomore. Honestly, it's the playoffs, to be honest. He's second playoffs. He's been in the league. And the NBA finals, I call him a rookie because this is his first NBA finals. So, but maybe only Harrison Barnes has the experience of that team. So we can talk about that later. But he's been in the league for so long. Oh, this is his first finals. It's a different ballgame.
But is this not the first finals from Brunson too?
Yeah, that's fair. So
Yeah,
well, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So maybe I think that kind of you look at that team too. You're right.
yeah. They have a
Even
lot of
yeah,
first,
you're right. Cat is also so they're out. So it's a game of rookies. So I guess some
I
rookies are
think
more
the only
experienced
person,
than others.
the only person that actually has anything is probably OG.
OG and even
And
OG was I think
and
it was even injured in
he was
that series a
injured
little bit.
during the
That's
run,
it.
but the fact is, it was in that environment. And then
Absolutely.
on the Spurs side is Harrison Barnes,
I said
who
Barnes,
he hasn't
100%.
even, I haven't even seen him on the floor. Those are the like intangibles that you can never take out because the way you act during the finals with the crowd, like, and that was MSG. They thought they had
Absolutely.
already won the game, and of course they went out of character.
Okay, that's good. So our second take, let's talk about it. Can the Spurs come back from 3-1? So here's the early reality. It's almost impossible. Only one team in NBA Finals history has ever done it. The 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, two all-time great players in the prime of their career. That was an unbelievable series. It took LeBron being LeBron and Kyrie being Kyrie to kind of win that game. A lot of people will argue that if Draymond Green wasn't played play game 5, maybe it couldn't happen. But again, the thing I tell folks is he played game 6, play game 7, they still lost. So that's a different ballgame. So it happened once in 52 finals series. And those Cavaliers were down 3-1 or so against a 7-3 Wayne Warriors team. They hadn't blown any leads like San Antonio just did. They haven't blown any lead. The Knicks are not the Warriors. Right. We know that. But the Spurs are not the 2016 Cavaliers either. So what's your own take?
I call that overreaction again.
Okay.
You just gave me everything I needed. You're right. Only one team, only one team has done it. The Cavaliers, led by one of the biggest talents who refused to let his team lose. Wemby is 22 years old and is averaging 27 points in his first NBA Finals. Is this generational talent.
Absolutely.
That is, and here's my evidence that the Spurs aren't done in these finals. They went into Madison Square Garden down 0-2 when everyone was calling this a sweep already. And they won. They won game 1. As a matter of fact, they won they won game 3 at MSG. And even that game 4, if it wasn't for, all the mistakes, they had it. Now they go home to the Frost Bank Center down 3-1. Their crowd this time, their building, the model still has them as 64.5% favorites.
I don't know who's running that
What?
model.
Yeah, but why? But why is home court suddenly meaningless? They're
It
back
is,
home.
it is because the pressure of elimination is completely different from the pressure of keeping a series alive. There's something like, I love whatever the NBA. Win or go home. You win, when you have the win or go home, you don't win, you're out of the series. So that pressure is different. In game 3, they had nothing to lose. That 0-2, they played free. But right now, one loss and the season's over. So that pressure is different. Could they handle it? Maybe, maybe not. No, we find out tomorrow. We saw what pressure does to a team in game 4. A 27-point lead gone. Just like that. That's what pressure does to you.
Well, Wemby sketched a statue in Gramercy Park the day before game 3 and scored 32. It doesn't feel pressure the way you and I feel pressure. He's not built that way. Game 5 in his own house, you see a response. I'm calling it right now. They win game 5.
Do I doubt they won't win game 5? I think they should. And I hope you're right. But the series itself, if they come back and win this series, in my opinion, that would be the greatest final story ever told. But I'm not betting on it. So let's talk about game 5. Now we can get our predictions in. Because I know you already called yours, but I want to get on record again.
Sticking to it.
So game 5 Saturday night in San Antonio, 8:30 Eastern on ABC. The Knicks can clinch their first title since 1973 on the road. So there are 3 things I'm watching. 1, does Wemby cut his 3-point attempts? We see he shot 2 of 8 from 3 in game 4, while the lead evaporated. Get back to the rim. That's where he dominates. Get back to the pen game. You are the tallest player in the NBA. Why are you shooting threes? I don't get it.
Because it makes them normally.
I know, but sometimes you gotta understand what shot do you take that you have a higher percentage. No, you take your higher percentage shot. It's not Steph Curry. If Steph Curry is taking threes, I'm like, I get it. Anybody else, you know what I mean. 2, does the final position mess up get corrected? Yes, the game was very close in game 5. Did they kind of figure out how to win close games in game 5? You can't leave the inbounder unguarded in an elimination game. You can't do that. So hopefully they kind of learn from that and it helps them. 3, Harper. He was 8 of 12. 21 points in game 4. The only Spur who constantly delivered. Does he close this time?
That's the $1 million question, and is a question that I've been seeking answers for. I don't know why Harper doesn't stay. Remember what I told you when we started this conversation? I told you that in the moments that really counts, you want that guy, even though he's a rookie, but he doesn't act like that. You leave him on the floor. But I believe the game they won, the coach had him on the floor for a little bit. But for game four, he took him out again and left Fox in the game. And look at where that led them. For the Spurs to win game 5, they need 3 things to work. Wemby has to be decisive in the 4th quarter. No ill-advised threes, like you mentioned. No late fouling, because that has been, the trend for all the games that they've lost. Castle needs to rediscover his game 3 form. He had 23 points in that game, 8 of 14. Then he had a much quieter game 4 compared to that. And defensively, they need to stop Anunoby because that guy has become a beast from getting to the glass. He had 33 points on 7 of 9 from 3. Can you imagine that? Who would have thought? No, I don't think that was in the scouting material.
No, that was scripted, I know.
And that tip-in, it was unstoppable, really.
Yeah, and there is a 53-year-old storyline. The Knicks haven't won a championship since 73. I think we've said that a few times in this episode. If Boston closes this on Saturday in San Antonio, he becomes the most important Knick since Willis Reed. He'll be the most important Knick because nobody's able to deliver a title to the Knicks. OG's tipping, it's already been called the biggest play in Knicks history. By Brown said post-game, and this is a real quote, I don't know if there was a play bigger than any other play in the history of Knicks. In the history of Knicks basketball. I don't know if there was a play bigger than any other play in the history of Knicks basketball. That was his quote. So that's how big that play was.
I know. And that quote that you just said, or that Mike Brown made, just supported the fact that the fact of what I said initially, that if the Knicks were to win this finals, OG will be my MVP of the series. I call this from game 1 because it does a lot of intangibles that we don't see. They don't show up on the box scores. on the box score, or you just see, oh, somebody scored 40 points, but you don't see what other things it does. It literally guards the best players from the opposing team every possession, every game, and he also, like, throws in his own points. Those things, because he's not, he's such a quiet guy. You don't see what he does. But if it wasn't for that tipping that I had, that has caused everyone to, like, look at him, everyone is now looking at him different. But he's been doing this all season long. Even during the playing, and even when they went through the Eastern Conference final, I said it. I said, for me, OG is my MVP, because what I look at is not, okay, the attacking players, is what all the other people are doing to stop the opposition team for being at their best, and OG exemplifies that perfectly. And for for San Antonio to be able to get anything, this is like a win or stay home. So they have to win game 5 at home. Then they have to go back to Madison Square Garden and steal game 6 before they can even think about game 7, which is where I actually thought they were going to win. I said Spurs in 7 from beginning. But
That's
that's like 3 straight wins against a team that's been the better team for most of this series, because they've been closing. Obviously San Antonio starts well, but the Knicks have been better for most of the series.
So episode 1, I said Knicks is 6. And I would love to say 7-game series, absolutely. But at this point, I think I'm going to move it up. I'm saying Knicks in 5. The closest on Saturday in San Antonio, I'm on record. This is over.
It's still Spurs. I'm not moving anything. I started from Spurs in 7. So I'm still standing. I know they're down 3-1, and I'm not moving. They win Saturday at home. We come back to New York for game 6, and this goes to 7, like I initially predicted.
Yeah.
Wemby's response, and Wemby's response game is Saturday night. Come back and tell me I was wrong after.
Absolutely. If they push it to 6, I'll be the first to say, great job. And I will be a believer.
I say 7.
At that point, I'll be a believer. Right now,
I say 7.
I'm moving up from 6 to 5 at this time until I see the Spurs learn how to close games in the playoffs. Maybe it's the finals problem. Until I see them close games, I'm hoping that their coach, like some of the veterans that they've had, the Tim Duncans, even Pop, can kind of talk to them and help them out. Now, back to one thing before we wrap up about the MVP. If you look at the MVP ladder right now, OG is leading. But if Brunson plays really well, even remotely close in the last game, I think he wins the MVP because he's a franchise player, and I think he's the best player. So
what I've heard. The only argument I've heard for Brunson winning this MVP has been, oh, he's the franchise player, is the face of the franchise. But he hasn't really played well all series long. He hasn't played well,
and that's why.
So for me, you have to reward. For me, you have to reward the person who has brought them this far. And in my own opinion, I think take out OG and let Brunson score all these points. Brunson does not guard anybody. Brunson, a lot of times, is hidden from defense.
I'm not arguing with that.
So what I'm saying is that if he plays well and he plays at the same level as OG takes it for me. I don't think anything he does in this next game. In fact, I think game 3 that the Spurs won. Remember, I mentioned that Brunson has started playing selfish a little bit because of that MVP, because they were up 2-0. And it just seemed to me like on that day, he was playing for that MVP, because at that point, Katz had even also come up in the MVP talks. So he was playing, and that was very bad for his whole team, and they lost the game. So if he tries that again and not just service the right people, like service Cats and also service OG and all these other people, they are going to lose
Yeah,
for me. And they lose if they lose game 5, they will take the confidence will go back again, depending on how they lose the game. The confidence will go back again to San Antonio, which they can now take back into MSG. And remember that now those boys know that they've won at MSG before. And if it wasn't for that, the carelessness of the fourth quarter, they would have we'll be sat here talking 2-2.
the same way Knicks has won in San Antonio. So if you look at before we wrap up really quick, if you look at the MVP lineup before game 4, it was, I think the Cats was number 1, Wemby was number 2, number 3 was Brunson, I believe. So OG playing well kind of leapfrog to the front. That's how distance flip. But again,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but even from what you're saying, I don't think Brunson has been the number 1 even throughout this series.
absolutely.
So for me,
but it was
I know that
absolutely.
him and even in game 4, that it seemed like he picked up a bit of pace. He was doing that in tandem with OG to get them back. OG was just 7 of 9 3-points. That's not easy. And even the tip, I felt it was as bad as we didn't even talk about. Remember, we didn't even talk about De'Aaron Fox trying to get that layup when they were up 1. That was so uncalled for. Keep the ball, let them foul you, and you win the game. So the whole situation, I know they threw away 27 points, but they could have rectified. They had an opportunity to rectify the mistake.
Yes.
And then Fox was trying to get the layup. And
same
then,
way Josh Hart. Josh Hart knows a lot.
No.
So,
but what I'm even trying to say, that after Fox made that mistake, why was Jalen Brunson taking that 3 points? In my opinion, because they could have won by 1 point. Adib, like bulldozed himself through and then get fouled, get your 2 points. They would have won by 1.
Also, he didn't fire him.
No,
they blocked the shot.
No, but both him, because taking that shot, it didn't go in. But for OG to come tip it, they would have lost the game. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes these players have to make calculated and sensible decisions. That wasn't a good decision from either Fox or even Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson just got bailed out in his own case. If Wemby were at the post on the other end where Fox was doing his own stuff, maybe we'll be talking a totally different story right now. So that's how I say it.
Cool. I think this is a very great commercial today. So this is episode 2 of the bonus on SportsTalk Media HQ. Game 5 is Saturday night in San Antonio. Knicks can clinch. Our reaction drops afterwards. Subscribe and hit the bell.
Yeah. Drop your predictions in the comment. Do the Spurs survive Game 5, or is it over on Saturday? I'm Glow.
I'm Nate. This is the bonus.